I haven't watched a Taliesin and Evitel video since, well, since the one where, he was, since his VOD. He was talking shit about me. I'm not really. Listen, here's the deal. If Taliesin's genuinely mad about me calling Evitel a bitch, I'm sorry. And I should probably apologize to him directly if they're genuinely upset by that. If that's the case, I would apologize, okay? Because I don't think that Evitel is a bitch, okay? But I also wasn't trying to be like that direct about it. I wasn't trying to be like that insulting. I didn't think that what I said was that bad, I guess. And so at the time, I didn't really care. But if it genuinely upset him, then I would be willing to apologize. Because I don't think that she's a bitch as a person. So I just want to put that out there before I watch this, that like, there's been drama between us and I don't really give a shit about it. In terms of like, I don't care. I don't have that hard of feelings about it, you know? I think that we would gain so much more by collaborating than we do by fighting. And I really genuinely mean that. And we've never collabed. And that's just, I think, a really horrible missed opportunity. So that sucks. But that's the way that fate has unfolded. So yeah, it's, you know, I wouldn't say it's all love, but it's definitely not all hate. And I just want to put that out there because I don't want this video and I don't want chat to just be littered with negative comments, okay? Comment more about the video and the content of the video, not the people. This isn't about drama, okay? So that's just the way that I see it. I'm like Sour Fang, okay? I'm down to break the cycle, okay? I'm down to break the cycle. I'm fine with that. It's cool with me. I think it's a good thing to probably try to do. We get stuck in a lot of fucking cycles and our ego ends up being the barrier. So anyway, let's watch this and just keep those things in mind as we watch and, you know, being critical of the video and its content, not of the people that made the video.
Now, time for our main story, the community discussion around hero talents, which has been really picking up steam this week. Hero talents are, of course, the new War Within feature. 2 new talent trees for each spec, which allows them to introduce, in Blizzard's words, new powers and class fantasies. Progression-wise, they're like dragon riding talent trees in that every node will be unlocked by the time you're max level, and every node will be active on the tree when you choose it. There are no points to spend or paths to follow. The only decisions you have to make within a tree are between a handful of choice nodes. And from what we've seen so far, most of these trees tend to focus on one particular spec ability, like Thunderclap, and then buff and enhance that one ability to make it a more major part of your rotation. So it's a pretty simple system and one that initially captured the community's imagination in a big way. And who can blame us? Because have you seen some of these hero talent tree names? Dark Ranger? Void Weaver? Hellcaller? Holy shit!
It's funny because none of those are actually the ones that my eyes go to. The ones that I go to, like straight ahead, is Oracle. That's a big one right there, dude. Oracle's fucking Conduit of the Celestials, Master of Harmony. Yo, yes, please. Elune's Chosen. Like, okay, yeah. Herald of the Sun. Like, dude. Yeah, those ones are fucking crazy, dude. I love those. I love those.
Holy shit! Rider of the Apocalypse?
Keeper of the Grove.
Old school class fantasy.
Yeah, Rider of the Apocalypse is pretty cool.
Right here, some of which have been long requested, finally making their way into the game. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I could see some potential problems and disappointments on the horizon for hero talents.
And then there's Frostfire, which is just mage. Oh, beautiful, dude.
And even though we are, and I quote, the biggest dick riders in the community,
Oh, man. That's funny, dude.
We said as much in a video on our second channel, a video which, by the way, is one of our most disliked videos on that channel. But since then, I have heard a lot of the points that I mentioned in that vid repeated, especially this week, as concerns over the new system has reached fever pitch. And it's really kicked off, as these things often do, with an Asmongold video entitled War Within is Dead.
Yeah. I like Zach. I don't like the clickbait. I get why, dude, but this sensationalism is something that Asmon has like spoken out about before, but then constantly does. So I'm not really sure how to feel about that. It's his editors, right? But you know, if Jay puts shit on my channel that I don't like, then I'll tell him.
Yeah, I know. Hold on, I'm not finished explaining it yet. It really kicked off.
Like I said, sometimes Taliesin's humor gets me, dude. He can be pretty witty in some of the stuff they write.
This Asmongold video is, as they often are, a reaction video. He's watching a Bellular Clips vid talking about the problems with hero talents. And it's a fun clip. It notices a lot of the same things my video does. Obviously, I largely agree with it. So does Asmon. And actually, the entire thing is pretty chill and civil and reasonable. Unlike the title of the reaction video, which is obviously dumb as cynical clickbait. But that's okay. That's just YouTube. You can call a video whatever you like.
True.
It's the content which is important, right? Well, that was certainly the view on the forums, where everyone was just happy that a real grown-up conversation was happening about hero talents, a much-needed analysis by influential voices within the community, bringing up informed and essential observations just like Blizzard have asked for, which can only in the long run make War Within so much better. No, it was a shit show, obviously. They done fished it up. This game is dead. Asmon and his hating on something he didn't play yet. Here we go. Blizzard, please stop. Damn, even for Asmon, this is quick to shit on a game. Glad I refunded. This game is toast. Now, like I say, the imminent death of WoW is not really what either of these vids is about, and the stupid title was quickly changed. But this whole debacle does show that hero talents have got people on edge. They are easy to identify as the thing that might be shit about the War Within.
True.
So fans who want the game to be good.
This is that Azerite power. This is that artifact weapon. This is that shitty legendary grind. You feel me? This is that thing that we're looking at and going, I don't know if we should do that. And I get it. I get it. I mean, it's happened so many times that, like, how do you blame people for, like, seeing it? It's like, I get it. It's that system. And, you know, it's very in-depth. There's a lot going on here, and it's very ambitious. And so when you add all those things together, new system, in-depth, ambitious, usually it's catastrophic with Blizzard. So, yeah.
Can be a little bit defensive about them, and haters who love shitting on a game that they used to love find them excellent shitting on material.
But it is here to stay, and so I want to say that I think that that's very important because this is the first time in like the last 10 or 15 years, maybe ever, I think ever, that Blizzard is trying to design a system that will be iterated on throughout multiple expansions. So when you think about this, when you think back to like AP or corruptions or those types of things, they just end at the end of it, right? It's never able to get to a good point. Like, if you played Final Fantasy XIV, how long did it take and how many reworks did it take before we got a good PvP mode, Crystalline Conflict, you know? For how long did it take refinement and revisiting and rebalancing in order to make something fun and engaging? It takes time. So when you're always on the corporate fucking conveyor belt and you can never stop to refine your artwork, what do you think's gonna happen? It's not gonna be very fun. It's not gonna be very refined. It's not gonna be very good. So I think it's important that we recognize, and it's not just that we recognize it, because our recognition is not what makes it happen, okay? It's our ability to concisely and respectfully and intellectually provide feedback in a manner that is useful. And so shouting on the forums like an idiot crybaby moron is not going to yield any results, okay? We should know that by now, okay? But what my point is that over 3 expansions, hopefully it's done and refined by the end of the War Within, because moving into Midnight and the Final Titan, I would hope that that system is refined to the point where we're really gonna love it in Midnight and the Final Titan, or Last Titan. So I think it's important to stop and realize that if we had artifact weapons or a system similar in a regard, and honestly, I think this system's even better because the thing about hero talents is that it doesn't have to just be talents, right? It can be a title, it can be a transmog, it can be mounts, it can be things that uniquely identify you as a Dark Ranger, as a Herald of the Sun. And there's so much opportunity for class fantasy there that it's actually monumental. It's monumental, the opportunity that's in front of them. Whether or not they can actually refine it in a manner that's appropriate and fun, that's what we need to be giving that concise and useful type of feedback for. Because they're saying, we're willing to commit to doing this. We want to be more open in communication. We want to make more iterative design changes and be very forthcoming about that. They've been very, very outspoken about that between Holly and, Mark? Or Tim? What's his freaking name? Anyway, the point is, like, they've said that, right? So now, when push comes to shove, they can't eat their words. They have to freaking live by the words that they said. They need to be transparent and iterative, which we'll see that it sounds like they are. They need to continue to focus on it throughout expansions, but also we as players, to a degree, yeah, John Haidt, thank you. It's not Mark or Tim, it's John. We as players need to have the sound minds to be able to provide meaningful and helpful feedback without being belligerent f***ing morons. Okay? So let that be just very out in the open there. That, like, feedback is only useful when it's not being shouted at you incoherently.
But since we're here, what actually is the real problem with hero talents? Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. Took you long enough. Allow me to explain. Covenants. The problem with hero talents is obvious to most people right away because it's one of the same problems we had with covenants.
I'd like to hear
a choice
this.
That is presented as a player fantasy choice, but which is actually a player power choice.
Well, yes, Covenant abilities had effect on player power, but one of the biggest issues was that Covenants are not aligned to your job, to your class, okay? So the inflexibility of Covenants was especially jarring because it wasn't associated with your class. Hero talents are. So I don't agree with this sentiment. I get fundamentally why he's saying this, but I don't agree that that's the problem. I don't think that's the problem. I don't think that's the problem at all, frankly. I think that Covenants were especially an egregious system because they were an absurd grind to max out, and you could not switch them freely and equitably between them at all. Like, I don't think, but I get it. Like, Covenants are probably one of the biggest, like, faceplant systems ever because they were so fucking awesome thematically and conceptually, and then all they were daily quest hubs that bound you into a zone that allowed them to tie certain mount drops to only being Venthyr Covenant, and only being Maldraxxus Necrolord Covenant, and only being Night Fae, and all of that unnecessary, intricate bullshit. Anything that you put in the game that is so uniquely identifiable that it becomes a restricting factor for the player is not fun. That's not fun. So as long as hero talents are still associated with your specialization, with your class, and that we're not going into them with the thought process that on my monk I can become a Deathstalker or a Dark Ranger, or whatever the words you want to use, then I think that it's different. Here's the deal. What this sounds like to me is almost more akin to a horizontal progression system, where we have so many levels and abilities now that we're kind of like, do we want to just add another layer to the talent tree, or do we want to say that at the canonical point in the story, your character has reached a point where they're able to kind of take that next step in their identity in class fantasy in such a way that resonates with the player? Like, that's what it's about. That's what's important. And frankly, if that means that I get what Taliesin is saying. Having power bound to it seems like an issue. But when it's not already a completely free choice, in my opinion, it doesn't seem that different from going through that dilemma of selecting your class in the first place. Once you select your class, once you're a warlock, period. So I'd love to go back to the warlock class hall. I love that place. Me too. There's a lot of class fantasy there, but I never felt bad that I couldn't go into the hunter order class hall. I also didn't feel bad that the hunters couldn't come into the warlock class order hall. You understand? The reason why I didn't feel bad is because that was the unique identity that was associated with it. Now, was me going into my class order hall giving me any form of power that the other specs and classes didn't have? No, it was not. It was integrated in such a way that, like, our power gains that were uniquely identifiable came through artifact weapons, a separate system, and through legendaries, yet again, a separate system. So I think class order halls are one of the best things they ever did. They gave you huge lore, huge story behind each of the weapons. If you had a character that was a hunter, you know for a fact you're going into the hunter order hall. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and that's just the way that it is, you know? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Can I say something, chat? Can I say something? This is gonna be a hot take, and I know people aren't gonna like this, but I don't mind when things are semi-linear. I really don't care. I don't care about linearity. I think some of my favorite games that I've ever fucking played are linear. I don't care which zone I have to go into first in an expansion. I want the cohesive storyline. I don't give a shit. The freedom is so much less important to me than the cohesion of the narrative and the systems that let it be fun. I do not give a fuck about the rest. So with that being said, like, I think that's the philosophy that I would focus more on and that I would want to carry through. That does not invalidate his concern about power imbalance, though. I get it. My concern more would be about the complexity of power balance, because you have an initial layer of talents and then essentially a secondary talent tree that you're also going to go through. I think the key thing is that inevitably you will unlock everything on that tree. So it's not like you're going to have to be, look, dude, unless you're a mythic raider or an MDI pusher or a plus 20 big dick key runner, then stop worrying about it. You know why? Because none of us are good enough for any of that to matter anyway, bro. When can people let go of that? The average player fucking sucks. I think the average player's gotten better, but the average player still fucking sucks. Let them fucking suck, dude. It doesn't matter. Just let them enjoy the game. You know? It literally doesn't matter. Your 1% difference between your Venthyr and your Necrolord only mattered for cutting edge guilds who were wiping at 1%. Like, it's just not relevant.
See the different Shadowlands covenants and are told that
the high level player will always pick the best thing anyway. So stop trying to cater to that fucking player. This is me ranting a little bit, but like, it's like, dude, just hyper optimized spreadsheet gameplay's fucking lame, bro. It wasn't fun to watch since fucking Legion.
To choose whichever one you want, the first choice you tend to make is based on...
I'm sorry, I gotta go back. It's so funny to me because I used to be a hardcore raider. If don't cater to them, why attach power to it? Because the average player should still be able to feel like their abilities give them power. Because there's nothing wrong with that. Because there's nothing wrong with an ability that makes a fucking Necrolord hand appear around you and smack the fuck out of things. There's nothing wrong with that. It can do damage, it can have power, and it can be one unique thing to your covenant, right? But when people blow it out of proportion and they act like the imbalance between a covenant is the same as like the imbalance between different corruptions from 8.3, they're fucking delusional. They're fucking delusional. And we take this minuscule problem that only 1% of players actually give a fuck about, and we make it this big blown up issue that we're all for some reason supposed to care about, when most of us suck too much and don't even play with a damage meter anyway. Who cares? Play what's cool. But I digress, man. I digress. Everything's got to be perfectly balanced always. Let me tell you what, man. Do you guys remember Mists of Pandaria? Can you guys go ahead? Let me ask you a question, chat. What were the most imbalanced classes in Mists of Pandaria? All of them. Almost every single one. Almost every single one was nuts. With the exception of like Feral. And even good Ferals, remember Soda Poppin' back then was playing a Feral doing the PvP shit, popping the off because he's nuts, because he just knows how to play Feral. The point is that sometimes the clashing of all the different imbalance is literally what makes balance. Now, some people would heavily argue against that, and I'd say let your pride go a little bit, because you being 2400 rated in 3s is not that impressive. But MOP PvP was insanely fun. It was the imbalance that gave balance. And so I think to constantly concern ourselves with the data and the numbers and all that is so stupid. I've had way more fun playing games like World of Warcraft with no add-ons installed and with no care or regard for how much damage I'm doing. And you know why? Because the content that I'm doing doesn't matter, bro. Unless you're doing that content, like I said, it doesn't matter. It's all ego-stroking bullshit, dude. And you know, there's people out there who care way more about how cool your character looks and what your character's backstory is than any cutting-edge achievement you could have. So can we stop pretending like the only shit that matters is min-maxing and 1% mythic raiders? Because they don't. They do, but they're not the only thing that matters. In fact, they're the minority in fact, when it comes to this shit, in terms of who f***ing matters. You know what's insane? They had to tune Ashara and Nazoth and the Jailer to be such insane f***ing fights that most of us can't even do them and never will do them. How f***ed up is that? I'm just saying, like, it's not that you can't have hard content. I'm just saying that when all content at that level is tailored towards that mindset, it's poison. The unnecessary complexity, it's why the game's riddled with add-ons and why people think that you need them to play when you don't. That's not true. You can literally clear all the heroic content in the game without a single f***ing plugin or add-on. It's so stupid. But people treat it like it's a necessity because their brains have been warped into thinking that that's the truth when it's not.
Obvious to most people right away because it's one of the same problems we had with Covenants. A choice that is presented as a player fantasy choice, but which is actually a player power choice.
What do you think about the other side of the system? Your Gnome Hunter will be a Sentinel or Dark Ranger? Makes no sense lore-wise. When people say makes no sense lore-wise for something that's brand new, how can you say that? How can you say it makes no sense? It's like looking at the Covenants before they came out and just being like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense lore-wise. Like, bro, it's literally new. Like, this is all new shit. Like, look, I'll give you an argument. How do you know a gnome can't become a sentinel? You know? Like, what's the lore barrier that has to exist that will break the game universe and your perception of it if they cross it? And if they do, who cares, bro? It's about freedom and customization. Who gives a shit? If they can reconcile it in lore, then that's all that matters, man.
When you see the different Shadowlands Covenants and are told that you get to choose whichever one you want, the first choice you tend to make is based on which one you think looks cooler and resonates with you and your character the most. Then later on, you realize actually being a Venthyr may be cool aesthetically, but it means your Windwalker monk is massively underpowered compared to every other monk in the game.
And that was a problem. And that was a problem when you have things like that occurring. But this isn't a situation of pick a class and then pick one of a myriad talent. Like, it's not the same. Like, you can't be a monk, paladin, rogue, hunter, rider of the apocalypse. Like, that is not a thing. So I just don't agree. I don't agree with this. I think, again, the issue with it is more about the balance of those things as additional talents. It doesn't need to be conflated to being the same as a Covenant, because it's not. They're fundamentally different.
You went Night Fae, and so eventually you cave, because it feels bad purposely gimping yourself and making the game harder, so you join the sparkly
I think that's exaggerative. See, this is that higher mentality of play that like warps your brain. Like, that's what I don't agree with, what he just said.
The Walker Monk is massively underpowered compared to every other monk in the game who went Night Fae, and so eventually you cave because it feels bad purposely gimping yourself and making...
Let me ask you a question. We're making an assumption here that the player cares more about their numbers than the fantasy of their character. And as someone who would vehemently disagree with that, I just don't like I don't like this concept because it's making the assumption that we all give a shit about that. It's not true. I think this is more of a community issue and perspective versus a WoW dev issue. I agree with that. I honestly agree with that, and that's kind of where I feel like most of my argument has been rooted is not actually in the design of the system, it's in the perception of the player. Because our attitude, so many attitudes are focused around the idea of needing to perform. You know, if you play a preservation evoker, you don't get brought to Mythic Plus keys. You know that's not true. If you're good, you can play your class well. It doesn't matter, and only people in the very top echelons act like it matters because they're running into these walls that are theoretically mathematically impossible, as we've heard before. It's mathematically impossible. And then like the next fucking poll they killed it. It's just so stupid. The type of shit people say to come up with the reason for why it's not me, it's not our play, it's not our strategy, it's the class. It's your balancing that's the problem. It's like, dude, no. You just suck. And it's fine. Just be okay with sucking. Like me. I don't know. Anyway.
You joined the Sparkly Fairy team and generally feel pretty shit and resentful of the fact that you were basically forced into it just to not be the worst monk on the server. Likewise, when you see that your hero talent choice as a hunter is between Dark Ranger and Sentinel, then from a player fantasy point of view,
what he's saying is some catastrophic issue is the same dilemma posed when you're selecting which specialization to play. If you want to be stronger, then just play it. Just play it then. Everyone knows that one of the Warlock specs is always better than the other two. Guess what? Even in Siege of Orgrimmar, when Affliction was disgustingly broken, I still played Destro, and I got in top 10 ranks. I beat Affliction locks on our Siegecrafter Blackview speed kill. I literally cranked. And you know why? Because I was good, and that's all that mattered. It wasn't the perception of the class that made me good or not. It was whether or not I could actually play it.
You might long to be a Dark Ranger, but know that for Mythic Plus and Raid, Sentinel is the only real choice. And
I think I'd also be a little naive to act like Destruction Warlock was not very good. Okay, so let me clarify that. If you play a Specker class that you actually enjoy, you'll probably do better anyways because you'll enjoy playing it. Yes, dude. Yes. Yes. Forcing yourself to do things that are not enjoyable for yourself is just, you're causing your own suffering. How do people not understand that? It's their attachment to their number, which they think represents who they are, that literally sullies their opportunity to enjoy the game. Stop optimizing the fun out of everything you play.
Otherwise is literally picking the wrong talents for the content that you are playing just for the sake of it. And friends, that doesn't feel
and it goes good. You're right. Okay, Taliesin, I get what he's saying. I think that this just goes so much deeper than just a general game system concept. And I just, yeah, dude, yeah, I don't know. I really, as a guy that went from casual to hardcore and back to casual, I can just tell you that there's nothing to be found in hardcore but ego and suffering. And I'm gonna tell you what, I think I started enjoying games more when I let go of trying to be in the 1%.
And choose the optimal talent tree to play the game. Don't be so sweaty. But here's the thing, okay? Picking a class fantasy that suits your character, that's fun. Optimizing your character to be the best it can be and playing the game as best you can? Yeah, that's fun too. It is not elitist to find enjoyment in getting good at a game and playing it well and pushing yourself to get better. And it's not weird RP furry nonsense to care about your character fantasy.
Yes.
WoW as a game can do both.
Yes.
And its best does do both.
Yes.
And what happened with Covenants and what people are worried will happen with hero talents is that it will be one or the other, which for most players means choosing the best tree for a player power perspective.
But again, we already do that. We're complaining about a problem we already live with. How come people don't say this about picking a specialization? Does he and do others not realize that it is exactly the fucking same? Does he not realize that? That you look at a skill set, an ability set, and when you pick the specialization, that's what you get. It's the same thing. Do we hate specializations? Do you guys hate the fact that you can play Destruction, Demonology, or Affliction? Is that shitty? Do you guys hate that even if AF is the best, you could play Destro or play Affliction or Demo and probably be fine? Or is that fine? I think that's fine. Who complains about that? If it matters that much to you, switch. That was the problem with Covenants, is that you couldn't switch. So as long as you can switch, it doesn't fucking matter. The people who care about it will do it, and the people that don't care about it won't. But trying to conflate, and I like what Taliesin has said here, where he's acknowledging both. People who do try to conflate that we all need to do the same thing are fuckwits. Raid leads will often force you to switch or bench you. Then leave the... Dude, do you not understand that you have put yourself in a prison of your own making? What the fuck? Open your eyes, dog. You're the one that is in the raid. Sorry, my neck's popping out. My vein neck's popping out. I'm getting worked up. You have to realize, you created your own prison. You understand that. You joined a guild. You joined a raid with a raid leader who treats people that way. Don't do that. Whoa! Whoa! You mean I don't have to be around people who act that way? Whoa! A whole new world! Like what?
I'm not critiquing any of these two videos here, okay? Because I don't need to talk about this. But Asmon says something in this video which I absolutely disagree with.
I think that the problem isn't really... There's no one thing that's wrong. Like, retail WoW has evolved in a way that it's like a house of cards. So, like, if you change one thing in the game, it will negatively affect a lot of other things in the game.
I think this is wrong.
Oh, he's talking about like a domino effect. He's talking about like if you tune this, then the effect here. I think that the aversion to negative side effects of tuning and new things being introduced, making you stagnant, is not a good mindset. So I agree with Taliesin and I disagree with Asmongold. I think that the idea that you can never change or add anything because you're too worried about how it's going to affect other things is stupid. And I think that that's not a good way to ever make anything new or interesting or cool. So yeah, I don't think that that's I don't see that as the reason. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. People are not gonna like this, but I'm gonna say it. The most popular version of Classic is the one that has new, different, interesting stuff. And I'm also gonna say that as someone who's played retail from MOP up until now, I went back and I played Classic, and it's mostly the same game. Whoa, crazy. TBC is like mostly the same game. Wrath is like mostly the same game. It's f***ing crazy how much it actually hasn't f***ing changed, but our perception of it has changed.
Especially in a conversation about
Sorry,
hero
chat.
talents, because that's exactly what the problem is right here. Making choices about player power is fun. Making choices about class fantasy is fun. Both are fun on their own. Covenants and hero talents prove they are...
The systems have changed entirely. The gameplay hasn't. The systems really haven't even changed that much. You guys realize, like, Wrath, dude. Wrath is the same fucking game. Are people so blinded by nostalgia? It's crazy. Anyway, I know I get so worked up about this, you guys. I just think that I think, can I explain something I'm gonna be very vulnerable and honest with you here. Not that I'm not normally, but it just freaks me out because it saddens me because I perceive it more that it looks more like a relationship with two people that fell out of love than two people where someone really did something catastrophic to the other one. Like, it looks more like just something that for people in their heart started to fall apart. And that's just sad. And that happens with things, you know, it's sad. And that's why it upsets me, I guess, is because it's not about being right. It's not about retail being better than classic. It's about that I think that people have blinded themselves into believing that they couldn't possibly love something now because it's different than it was before. And I just think that that's shitty. Like, everything is meant to change. Like, things are meant to change. I just, that's the whole, like, the theme of WoW is that. It's that. And it's like, it's just, and it's fucked up because if people can't comprehend or process change in a video game, then how are they supposed to cope with it in real life? I guess that's why I get worked up, because I think that the way people conceptualize and go about these problems in this video game is reminiscent and probably even a copy of how they go about it in real life. And maybe that's presumptuous and a mistake of me to think that. I think it is, and probably for some people. It's not like that for everybody, but I think that there are some people who are like that. And that worries me, because the static mind, the unchanging mind is dangerous. Human nature is to reject change, unfortunately. I disagree. I don't know if I agree with that all human nature is, why am I the way that I am then? So what you're saying is then I had some type of thing that allowed me to overcome that base instinct, is what you're saying. Okay, well, I can't be that special, right? How come other people can't do it? If people are naturally resistant to it, then how come some of us aren't? How come some of us... Maybe it's because when I was a kid, we moved around a lot and I was forced through that ringer. Maybe it's because I went to a bunch of different schools, had new friends, new places. Change was constantly a part of my life. That's probably part of it. I think most of the change in my life has actually been quite tumultuous and hard for me to deal with. But I think that that's part of the lesson. That's part of the point, that you're not supposed to just only like change that's easy. You're supposed to face things that are hard, like your anger, you know, like your arrogance. Take it from me. And it's very f***ing hard. And so it frustrates me, because I just think everyone should be capable of doing that. And it just, I don't know, freaks me out when I see people that can't. And now I'm really ranting, and this is off topic. And so let's just finish this video.
Have a mini talent tree that buffs and enhances one particular ability. That is a fun idea. Have class fantasy choices. Let players choose between being a Dark Ranger and a Sentinel, and give them cosmetic changes to represent that choice. But don't make the class fantasy a package deal with the player power, because in 99% of cases, that means the class fantasy suffers.
That is true. What Taliesin said right there is absolutely true. Regardless of the other points, when you tie them together, it is always the class fantasy that suffers, because the numbers and the data in this game almost always, and in most games now, almost always just surpasses the enjoyment in fantasy. It's funny, because I think Chris has actually done something very clever about industrialization and said something very clever about civilization, and I think he's made some very clever, astute points through his writing in World of Warcraft about control. And I think that honestly, people probably wouldn't like to hear this, but I think Chris Metzen is honestly a little more woke than most WoW players would even realize.
Worst, it makes players resent the class fantasy that they had no choice in choosing, and feel alienated from a character they may have played for 20 years. Just separate them. Everyone is saying class skins, and I agree. I made a video about that 4 years ago as well. Go
Taliesin. I think that Taliesin and I are fractals of one another. I think that's the case. We're like two people born from the same core soul a long, long time ago, and we just got slightly different aspects, but we're fractals, bro. We've got to be fractals. I don't know, bro.
Blizz aren't doing that with hero talents, are they? They are combining player power choices with player fantasy choices, so that's it, right? War Within is dead. Asmon's editors, who sadly he has no control over, were right all along. Well, yeah, kind of. But the good news is, it is incredibly early in the process here.
No, not really. I don't agree with that. They weren't right, even kind of. I mean, it's obviously an egregious exaggeration for clicks. They weren't right. War Within isn't dead. That's sensationalist bullshit. So
when we saw the Oracle tree for Holy and Discipline priests, everyone's heart sank because this motherfucker is a support spec. It's the healer version of augmentation, centered around an evolution and focus on power infusion, everyone's least favorite talent. And I agree with every criticism you could possibly make about this talent tree, but I also spent a week pointing out that when we interviewed the devs about it, they basically answered every question with, yeah, that's what we were thinking, but if people don't like it, we'll just change it. Lo and behold, this week a blue post reveals the Oracle is indeed undergoing a rework. And if Dragonflight has proved anything, it's that Blizz actually are willing to make community-pleasing changes much more readily and often than we've become used to over the years.
Yep.
So I see every reason to be optimistic.
Yes, that's what yes, dude, yes. When Holly and John come on and they're, it may be scripted, but freaking laying bare their mistakes and trying to admit what they've done wrong and how they're going to fix that. Like, dude, have some faith, man. Have some faith, like, and at least believe that they're trying. Like, now if it ship's broken and busted and it's all a freaking wash, then like, it could be different. It could be different, you know, but like, give them a freaking chance, dude. Take it from me as someone, you know, who has needed second chances, chat. Give them a freaking chance. I mean, look, it's a good video. It's a good video. I'll like it. I'll like it. You know, dude, chat, I'm gonna say it, bro. I would love to talk to Taliesin about this, and it doesn't even have to be public, dude. I genuinely think that he and I could have a very, very good conversation about this. Like, I really do. I think that we have some very similar thoughts about this, and I agree with most of what he said there, but I wish that I could, I don't know, just talk to him about it. And again, it doesn't have to be content, it doesn't have to be live, like, I just think that there's value in that conversation. I think that there's lots of value in conversations between Taliesin and I, and I think that for a long time, I have let my ego convince me that that's not true. But it is true, okay? We all have valuable stuff to say, whether it's Asmon, Taliesin and Evitel, me, everyone's got something valuable to add, and if we just live our lives ignoring everything that each other says, then we're not gonna freaking get anything done, bro. You know how sick the World of Warcraft community could be if we would just be friendlier with each other and collab with each other? Like, we have a community with such a lack of community that I feel like that's why we often feel at odds with one another, because we haven't taken the steps. Listen to me, dude. What am I saying? Listen to me right now. I sound like Sourfang. Like, but seriously though, trying to break the cycles, man. Trying to move past our ego, because it just destroys us. It just destroys us, dude. All of us.